Welcome to Art for Breakfast meeting today. My name is Seiichiro Yamamoto. I'm one of the founding member of the Asia Society Japan and also the art committee member. Today we have many guests, participants, using online as well as offline. The using online the participant is we welcome all around the world, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Hong Kong, and Philippines, and also, of course, Tokyo. So today I'm very excited to welcome and introduce today's guest speaker, Mr. Ryo Shinagawa, the young emerging artist. Let me call you Ryo. Ryo was born in Kyoto. He received his bachelor's degree in Japanese painting from Kyoto University of Art and Design in 2014 before completing his master's degrees in the university's graduate program. He has participated in solo and group exhibitions in Taiwan, Korea, and Japan. He grounds his contemporary paintings in hundreds of years of tradition, from the simplicity of Zen Buddhism to the gold-leafed Rinpa school. Ryo brings together disparate elements of Japanese art to discover contemporary meaning for traditional materials and styles. In his words, patterns, history, and thought, they are dependent on the given locale and environment. As he brings centuries of traditional paintings into the present, Ryo works at the intersection of the history of Japanese art and its future. In this program, Ryo will talk about his process, journey, and experiences abroad, and broaden his work to go beyond the limits of Japanese paintings and expand their future. I've heard that his artworks are quite popular around the world, and now the long waiting list, sold out immediately. So please join us to hear his thinking, process, and journey. With that, let me turn over to Ryo.
My name is Ryo Shinagawa. I'm a painter, and I usually use Japanese traditional technique and material. At the same time, I use also contemporary technique and material like this. And today, I want to talk about my career, what Japanese style painting is, about my painting, and what I want to do in the future. I'm a little bit tensed up because today is my very first day to give speech in English, but I'm really excited to be able to share my artwork with you. So I hope you enjoy my presentation and your breakfast. So let's get started. My journey as a painter was started when I was first year of elementary school. I wrote in my essay, I want to be a painter, and I want to go to a lot of places soon. So to be a painter was always my childhood dream. And I studied art in high school. After graduation, I thought to be an artist, even if I do not go to university to study art. So I worked at the store to save money to go abroad, because when I was a high school student, I studied oil style painting like this, and I thought it was the best painting style for me. Actually, I was not familiar with Japanese style painting, Japanese art. I thought it was too old, out of date. Then I went to Italy to explore a lot of things, especially artwork. And Italian art is amazing, as you know. When I talked to the people who I met there, I'm studying art. Then they assumed that I'm studying Japanese style art. And when I started to talk about how much I know Leonardo da Vinci, how much I like Raffaello, Caravaggio, they just say to me that, thanks, you know well about our culture and our history. And I felt that it's very difficult to create artwork which based on European art history, because it's their art and their history and not mine. And after I came back from Italy, I started to research about Japan, and I developed a desire to study Japanese style art at university. Then I worked at store again for 1 year, saving money, and I could enroll to university after I failed 3-time entrance examination. And I forgot this picture. This is a picture, just people saying that Leonardo da Vinci painted Mona Lisa, La Gioconda here, but people just saying. So at the university, I studied Japanese style painting. I took a course, Japanese style painting, which we call Nihongo. At first, I really had no idea about Nihongo. I thought it was totally contemporary style painting. And in my second year of university, these are my paintings which I painted at university, like this or this. And in my second year of university, I had an opportunity to be able to go to Venice as an assistant of Venice Biennale. And when I saw the artwork in Venice Biennale, I was very shocked because they were too difficult for me to understand. Isn't it? It's too difficult. But at the same time, I came to think that Nihongo may not be a contemporary art. But after that shocking experience at the event, I continued to paint Japanese style painting. And after 6 months, I had an opportunity to go abroad again. That was exchange student program to Geneva University Art and Design. I showed my professor my painting, which I painted at the time, like this. Then the professor told me that this is a picture, just hobby of yours. You should try to painting in a more contemporary style. That is, today's generation of Japanese can relate to it more. But I didn't understand what he thought I should paint, incorporating Japanese essence. And I didn't tell the difference between a painting is just a hobby and one that wasn't. After that, I attended classes, but I made very few paintings. Instead, I traveled around Europe. I went to United Kingdom, Belgium, and France again, and Spain again. And I also, of course, I traveled around Switzerland. And I went to Basel to see Art Basel. And I also went to Kassel to see Documenta, like this. And this journey was very, very, very important for me. And now I can say it's necessary, but at the time I was I struggled a lot because this journey was very special to me, but this journey did not make my art any greater or help me find what should I paint next. And after returning to Japan, I had still no idea what should I paint. Then I went to the library to borrow books of patterns and art book. And I kept drawing Japanese thing in the book on copy paper, like these. So now I can say it was very fun, but at the time it was very hard. And after 1.5 years, I finally completed a painting which led to my Kuhon painting. And now, I want to talk about Japanese style painting and Nihongo. Today, there are Nihongo in universities and some galleries and department stores. And many people study, paint, and purchase them. However, if you check the global market, there aren't any work in genre called Nihonga. Nevertheless, Japanese paintings until the Edo period have been stored in overseas museums and art galleries. Therefore, I came to think that Nihonga is just a genre for domestic rules and demand, and Nihonga may have disconnected the history and flow of conventional Japanese painting. Japanese style painting is generally called Nihonga. However, I think Japanese style painting and Nihonga are different. The word Nihonga was made in 1882 in Meiji period. The purpose of making of the word Nihonga was to create paintings comparable to Western style. At the time, people thought that Japan would be enriched by incorporating Western culture such as clothes, food, and buildings like these. The same was true of painting. The word Nihonga was made to incorporate Western paintings, expressions, and ideas, and to not be defeated by them. At that time, there were Van Gogh and Gauguin in Europe who were called post-impressionist painters. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Is one of Gauguin's masterpieces. As the title suggests, they were facing themselves to look for motives and purpose to paint. Like them, today's Nihonga painters are trying to express individual feelings and emotions through their Nihonga. However, post-impressionist expressions and ideas were born in a long history of West. Western painting were originally painted for religious and mythology. After that, it developed with the question of natural science, such as why can we see objects and why do distant objects look blue and hazy? As the power of Pope and kings weakened, the bourgeoisie raised their head and citizens gained power. By that time, the demand for religious and mythological paintings were decreasing. Also, the advent of photography decreased the demand for portrait ordered by the king and bourgeoisie. Then, painters faced the big question, what paintings for? What are paintings for? As a result, they realized that there are expressions that they can have only paintings. Impressionism was born in this way. The purpose and motives of each painting style were born in the long history, so they changed naturally with times. After Van Gogh and Gauguin, Picasso, Matisse, and Marcel Duchamp were active. They changed their expressions and motifs with times. Japanese painters imported paintings from Europe in Meiji period. They then established schools and organizations to promote and maintain Nihonga. It was Tokyo Geidai. And I avoid to show that painting, that picture, long time. And this is my studio in university. I painted Nihonga here. And this is Nihonga, which I painted at the time. So after Japanese painters were all looking, at first, Japanese painters were all looking for the answer to the question of what Nihonga is. Over time, however, a hierarchy was gradually built up. And noticeably, the painters came to think that they could live well by following the hierarchy. But their works are only paintings for Nihonga system, not for art or paintings themselves. Their motives and goals are always self-expression. In the Nihonga system, the evaluation criteria are based on how obedient you are to the hierarchy and whether your work suits the taste of the powers. Every time the top in hierarchy changes, the evaluation criteria also changes, as well as the value of paintings. As a result, the painters do not reflect the time and cannot have anything new. Therefore, they have no global value. The painters in the Nihongo hierarchy are still expressing themselves. The motifs of Western painting have always changed over the long history. Japan imported only a part of Western painting history, so it failed to drive it well. Once Japanese painters had established the Nihongo system, they had only to keep painting for that system. So there was no need to change. Even now, more than 100 years later, the ultimate goal of Japanese art education is self-expression. That's the same as Van Gogh. I think art is a mirror of the times. If you look at I think art is a mirror of the times. If you look at an artwork, you can see what the time was like when the work was made. For example, if you look at Leonardo's painting, you can see that people at the time began to look from a religious perspective to a more realistic point of view, such as a discovery of aerial perspective. And if you look at Vermeer, you can see what happened at the time. In addition, when you look at paintings by Eitoku Kano, you can see that the power of temples and shrines became weakened at the time. And you can see what the general was wanted to and searching for and why. If art is truly a mirror of the times, then Japan had art until the Edo period, and Nihongo is no longer art. If that is true, I think that I can create true contemporary Japanese painting by going back to the paintings of Edo period and changing them from there to the present age. And I also believe that future generations will look at my paintings and understand that the history of Japanese paintings had once been disconnected by Nihongo, but it was reconnected by me in this time. And now, I want to talk about my painting and myself. So I think Nihongo and Japanese painting are different, and I think Nihongo disconnected the history and flow of conventional Japanese painting. If that is true, I should go back to the Edo period and incorporate Western art over again. Here is painting I made with the idea. In this painting, I simplified only flower parts, like a single stroke. The reason for the simplification is that we Japanese simplify things when we create our own culture. For example, we Japanese simplified the Chinese characters kanji to create our own characters hiragana. We have created other derivations by extending the imported cultures and removing some parts of them. That's the way we have established our own patterns and styles. I'm drawing this series of paintings because I would like to put the Japanese approach into approach in painting. The flower has a simple shape, but you can distinguish by the shape of leaves. For example, this is a camellia leaf, so it's a camellia. And this is a morning glory leaf, so it's a morning glory. And camellia again, and it's chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum, French. It's French. Okay. What did you say? Chrysanthemum? chrysanthemum. 難しいな。chrysanthemum. Okay, but I know that you know. Okay, so chrysanthemums. Okay. Anyway, move on. So the flower has a simple shape, and you can distinguish the type of flower, the type of plants. And after Edo period, the Meiji period came. In the Meiji period, the Impressionists were active in Europe. They left brushstroke in their paintings. Prior to that time, in Europe, people thought that brushstroke was a bad thing, and a painter who left brushstrokes was also bad. However, the situation changed after the Impressionism. People began to regard brushstrokes as a record of how a painter moved the brush, that is, the painter's breathing and time. By the way, if the Japanese painter who drew this painting learned Impressionism, what kind of paintings would he draw? Here is my painting I made with the question in mind. I paint leaves like my previous painting, and I add the concept of brushstroke like this painting. Like the Impressionists, I emphasized the texture of the paint and made it easy to see how I moved the brush. And Henri Matisse is one of the painters who was active after the Impressionism. In his later year, Matisse cut colored paper and pasted them together to make pictures. What Matisse wanted to do was to deeply explore the relationship between shape and color, and the relationship between figure and ground. If the painter who used the paint in this way explores the relationship between shape and color like Matisse, what kind of paintings would he draw? Here is my painting with the question in mind. In addition to the same paint expression method as before, I carefully considered the shape of motif and the contrast between the motif and the background when painting it. At the same time as Matisse, Picasso was also active. As you all know, Picasso developed the expressions approach known as Cubism. In this approach, motifs are captured from various directions and integrated into a single painting. In other words, motifs are broken up and reassembled. What happens if I incorporate the concept of breaking up motifs like Picasso? In my previous painting, I painted based on the shape on the petals like these. But in this painting, I ignore the shape altogether. When painting the cherry blossom, I focused on how to layer the paints and how to move the brush. The painter who drew such a painting like this then came to think that I should be able to paint even without motif. Here is my next painting. I paint it. There is no specific motif in this painting. I painted it focusing on how to arrange the paint and how to make the texture the paint and the relationship between paint and the background. So this is what I want to, no, this is what I'm doing just now. And now, and it's also again. And now I want to share my exhibition's pictures. This is my Fusuma painting, which I painted for the first time as a job. It was for a hotel, which called Suiran Luxury Collection in Arashiyama in Kyoto. And I also make ink style painting, and I really like to make hanging scroll, and like this or this. Recently, I'm interested in in the collaboration with my painting and some objects like this. And I also made holding screen, and holding screens again. And this is Fusuma painting. Fusuma is one of the door for Japanese room. And this is for this paintings for the restaurant named Kishozakura in Kyoto. And this is a picture, one of the biggest picture which I painted. It wide 5 or 6 meters and almost 2 meters high. And this is a paintings for Ryokan, which opened last month in Naoshima in Kagawa. And this is its room. And this is a picture of my last solo exhibition in Tokyo, in Mitsukoshi Nihonbashi. So, as I mentioned earlier, that Nihongo disconnected the art history, the Japanese art history. And as I shown you that I've been attempting to reconnect it by going back to that time before the birth of Nihongo and incorporating Western art over again. I believe that when this series of painting reaches present day, I will be able to create a contemporary painting which can be called true contemporary Japanese painting. Japanese painting has a long history, more than 100 years, more than 1,000 years. And the elements and material of traditional Japanese and traditional Asian painting still have a lot of potential. They should bring new possibility, not only to Japanese painting, but also to paintings of all humankind. Today, there are many internationally active painters. However, there is still no painter who working with Japanese painting in a positive way. I like to take Japanese painting in a positive way and challenge a new possibility in contemporary art. I have a lot to learn and a lot to know, but I continue challenge in myself. At the beginning of this speech, I told you that to be a painter was always my childhood dream. And now I want to say that to create art history, to create a contemporary art which based on Japanese painting in a positive way, and to create art movements, to continue painting until the moment when I die, are my dreams. I will never throw away painting. I will never stop painting, thinking about art, because I have huge, I don't know how do you say huge than huge, but anyway, I have many things that I want to paint, I want to draw, I want to express. So I cannot create any, not only me, the artist cannot create any art history, any art movement alone. And we artists need the museums, the galleries, the collectors, the patrons, the support, the other artists, the relationship. So I would be grateful if you all could support me. And I hope you join to create art history and art movement with me. So let's make them together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryo. There's a quite impressive presentation, very wonderful. There's amazing and beautiful the artworks. So thank you very much. Please give him your big hand again. So now we are moved to the Q&A session. So as a kickoff, let me ask you a couple of questions.
Yes.
Through your presentation, you kindly introduce your process, story, journey, and some techniques behind the scene there, and also beautiful artworks. And we may find out that you often use kinpaku kinpak on your artworks. So how do you come up with the idea to use a kinpak as a gold as a color on your artworks?
Okay, so it's a good question because gold is very attractive, isn't it? So I'm afraid that someone think I use gold because it's easy to sell, but actually not. I think gold is very important for Japanese art, Japanese painting history. I think there is two point of epoch, two important epoch for Japanese painting. First, it's Heian period. It's almost 1,000 or 1,200 years ago. And then a lot of people made Japanese poem, which we call waka. And hiragana was born in that time. So a lot of Japanese culture were born in that time. And second point is one of the biggest war, which we call Ongin no Ran. Ongin no Ran broken up 6 or 500 years ago. And after that war, almost Kyoto were burnt. So people have to recreate city, town, street, and house and castles, everything. And at the time, the generals has a lot of power. Sometimes they has much more than emperor or shrines or temples. Of course, people, of course, citizens. And the generals built the castle, and they had a lot of walls to decorate, and they wanted to show how they are strong, how they have power. So generals made paint on gold, because gold, we can feel something strong from gold. At the time, gold style painting, can I say gold style painting? I don't know how to say in English. I want to say that kinpekiga is the paint like this. Okay, so this is not gold, but it's silver. At that time, a lot of gold style painting were born. And before that, almost we lost. And so we recreate our culture at that time. So I think gold style painting and Chinese ink style painting are Japanese basic art.
And next question is, at presentation, you kindly touch upon a little bit about your positioning in the art world, especially in Japan. And I agree, we may agree that it seems that you are truly unique. It's not really typical. It's, you always try to go beyond the Japanese traditional painting. And also you learn and incorporate the Western style painting. They all come together. It try not be contemporary art and truly the contemporary art world. So do you believe that you is only one innovator in that area in Japan or all around the world?
Actually, I don't know the other artists like me, but I strongly feel that we need the artist like me. Like me is too strong, but we need the artist, someone improve the Japanese traditional or Japanese art. As I told you that we need the other artists, the friends, the relationship to create art movement, art history. So now I have to say that I think I'm solo. I'm alone. But I hope many artists imitate. Imitate is negative. Is imitate negative? So mimic is follow. Okay. So I hope some artists will follow me.
So my first question would be, you just mentioned that. So in terms of support, so you're painting on gold and silver, because there is like history of Japanese painting. So that's, you build on that history, but do you see yourself exploring other support? So not just gold or silver, but other things in the future.
Yeah, you means do I paint on the paper or on the other colors? Yeah. Is it okay?
On canvas
or painting or sculpture? No, just painting. Anything.
Different than gold.
Okay. Yeah, I really like make ink style painting, which I showed you. That something like this. This is just I use only ink and silver. Okay, just a moment. I put silver on here as the moon, but for example, I made this picture only ink, and I told you that ink and gold are very important for Japanese painting. So I will continue the both style, but now I'm famous on gold style painting. So many people know I usually paint gold style painting, but I also really like style like this. And I will change because you have known that I want to do in the future. So I will change. So please look forward my changing. Okay.
I'd like to ask about the response from the overseas viewers who lived in abroad. So I was born in Japan, and then I know that a little bit about Nihongo. Also, I understand how innovative your works, arts. But on the other hand, I just want to know that the person who never had a chance to observe the Nihongo, and then when you show that your art, how they respond to your arts. So that's my question.
So do you want to know the response in overseas? Yeah. Okay. So I had several exhibitions in foreign country. I think there is no difference between Japan and foreign countries. Some people is interested in my work, and there are some people is not. But これなんて言うたらいいんやろな。But I think in foreign country, older people are more interested in my painting than Japanese people. Yeah, especially in New York. When I was in New York, older people liked my paintings than than young audience. But I don't know why. And in Taiwan, I didn't feel the difference between Japan and Taiwan.
Thank you for your presentation and the history of why you developed your style. Obviously, you always use nature themes. You know, there's other themes from Japanese prints, etc. So I'm just wondering why you always choose nature as your theme.
Okay, because I think flower is one of the typical Japanese motif, because until in Western art history, there is no painting which painted only flower until the modern age. In Western history, they painted flowers with people, flowers with something like that, something. So, but in Japan, people painted only flower for a long time. I think in Japan, art is just a decoration or explanation. Paintings is for explanation, but in Europe, paintings is for religious, for mythology. So they need to paint people or something huge things. So I prefer to paint flowers or nature things.
Hi, I'm Rora. Hi, everyone. This really actually isn't a question. I just wanted to say that your paintings are just beautiful, right, to look at. But your explanation of the history of Japanese art and how you have connected it with, global periods of the art movement has really made me appreciate even more the genius that you are. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I also think that, you just mentioned previously about how, perhaps your art isn't as appreciated or not probably understood by other generations or other people, outside of Japan. And I think if you educate, just as you did today, how your art connects to history and to the globe, globally, I think the appreciation will even expand even more. So thank you for sharing your evolution with us. I thought it was really wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
So please invite me for foreign country.
Yes, I will do that.
I was curious when you talked about your professor telling you that you're painting for like hobby, that you should stop painting as a hobby. When you look back today, do you think you were painting as a hobby? I'm very curious. Like, what is it?
Yes,
what's the difference? Because it's so
very
beautiful.
Good yeah, I think it was just a hobby because I really fun. I enjoyed a lot to paint Nihongo because the paints are very beautiful and sometimes it's very difficult to use. So I enjoyed, but that paintings were they don't have any times, any histories. Just I want to draw. That's all. It doesn't mean nothing. So it's just for me. Yeah, sometimes it will be something for the other people, but the paintings which I painted at the time was just a hobby. Is it okay?
And so today, when you paint, it has more like time and history behind. And is that the difference? Like you're aware?
I can't follow you. Could you rephrase that?
So when you were drawing as a hobby, it was for yourself. And I think you used the word self-expression when you were talking about other Japanese painters as well. And today, what is it for you? It's more about like the history and like you're placing yourself in history, art history.
Do you mean that do I say some advice or something about history or something like that to the other artist?
No, or yourself. Like if you're not painting as hobby today, what are you doing today?
I want to improve Japanese art, and I think Nihongo is not art and bijutsu. Bijutsu is generally called art in English, but bijutsu and art is different. art is the term which we imported from Europe or America, United States, and bijutsu is just a term for the education, art education in Japan. And it's very important that a painting for just a hobby is very important for the education or for the hobby. It's very important, but I sometimes paint a painting just a hobby. But if I want to be an artist, I have to do something. No, not something. I have to paint as Japanese, because we Japanese live in here for a long time, and people has a long history. Then I want to stand on the Japanese history and on the human history. So I need to take history.
So I think it's a good timing to go to some of our online questions. And this topic was actually quite good, a segue from a question from Chris Wells, who is a co-chair of our arts committee, and he's currently in Shanghai. He asks, do you think your positive approach to Nihongo is shared by other artists in your generation? And are you part of an emerging movement among your peers? And how do you interact with your artist?
My friends, especially the artists who exhibit with me, knows what I want to do. But the Nihongo painters may not know, because when I was in Nihongo, they avoid to know what contemporary style painting, contemporary art, because it's too difficult to understand, and we need to knowledge when we watch contemporary art. And so I think Nihongo painters don't know what I want to do. I want to paint.
So the other part of the question is, how do you interact with other artists?
So I usually use traditional Japanese technique or materials, but I exhibit with the artist of oil style or acrylic style. So I think they think I'm a contemporary painter, just a contemporary painter. They don't classified me that I'm a Japanese style painter. They just think I'm a contemporary painter. Or I want to believe or not, but I feel that so.
So this follows on to another question from Chris that says, do you work with younger Japanese children and teens as a teacher of your style and perspective?
Actually, I had class in university before 3 or 4 years, but it was very hard because recently the students want to fix the job. I don't know how to say 5 times 4 weeks job, like Seishain, and I have never that job, so I couldn't give any advice. And if I told the students that I think you have to change here, or you should study, or you should read this book, it will help you. But they just said me that, oh, okay, I will confirm to my professor. That's all. So I want to teach again, but at that time it was very hard. But I feel that I need to share my opinion or my artworks or my method or the way to paint, to make paintings.
もっと子供とか若い人、もっとヤング子供たちに教える機会っていうのはあるんですか？
No, I have never that opportunity. But sounds great, isn't it? Because I want to teach how to put the gold leaf for children. They were not to put neat like me, because I put very well. But the children, well, it's very difficult for children. But I want to see how we'll make that. So if I have opportunity, I will do that.
Thank you. So there's another question from Horiuchi-san, who is a co-chair. I think he's in either Karuizawa or maybe close by in Azabu. But he says, your motif and techniques of painting is rapidly evolving. Do you have any concrete images for the future and goal of your works?
So as I shown you that now I'm painting this series, and I really want to show what I am doing just now, but I can't, because it's very important when I show or where I show my next painting. It's very important for the artist. So now I can't say, but now I'm changing this style. So please wait. And the goal is, now I'm working with Japanese style, and I said again, I'm Japanese style painting. But in the future, I want not to say Japanese style painting or Japanese something. Just this is a contemporary painting. So I want to make just a contemporary painting. So do I make sense? Now I have to say Japanese style painting or Japanese painting. But in the future, I want to change this situation or my painting to do not add Japanese something. I want to say just a painting. So it's my goal.
Thank you. We have a question from New Jersey, Grace Toy. Thank you for your question. She wants to know, please share about your experience of having your work exhibited at Naoshima, where she wants to come visit soon. And can you also tell us which ryokan, the name of the ryokan at Naoshima?
Yeah, it's very important, and thank you from New Jersey. Oh, it's amazing. So this is a painting for ryokan named Roka. Ro is hiragana, ka is kasumi in kanji, Roka. And what are the other questions?
Your experience of working, having your work exhibit at Naoshima. 直島のこのロカで作品を展示されたっていうことの体験について。
So this picture is for ryokan. So you can see this painting for a long time. But these paintings, just until October, I painted 12 paintings for ryokan for each rooms. And you can buy, if you visit a ryokan, you can join a lotto system to buy my paintings. So, and I painted 12 paintings based on Japanese old poem, which we call Shinkokin Wakashu. It was made 800 years ago. And I choose 12 waka. And I painted each painting one waka with one painting. So, for example, I paint apple on the right side, and that waka was something like autumn, and so I inspired that. No, waka inspired me, something, then I paint that. And this challenge, I challenged that style for the first time, and it was very exciting. So I really want you go Naoshima.
This is a first, actually. We have a Deborah-san from Nebraska tuning in, which I think is quite amazing. She says, your work is amazing, especially in view of your process. You are ahead of your time. Thank you, as I have gained knowledge, insight, and inspiration. So I think that's quite nice. And we'll go to another question. This is from an anonymous attendee. This person asks, what kind of pigments besides gold do you use? Is it mineral-based? And this person says, your paintings are gorgeous. Thank you.
Okay, about the materials, and it depends on what I want to draw, I want to express. For example, in this painting, I use only acrylic painting because acrylic painting has the texture which acrylic painting only has. Do you understand what I want to say? So and of course for example, in this part, green parts, I painted by natural pigment, which traditional Japanese material, and because I wanted to have this texture here, then I used this material, but the flower parts, the red one, I used acrylic because Japanese traditional material cannot have this texture. And I want to express the brush stroke, so I have to use the acrylic. So it depends on what I want to paint, what I want to express.
Thank you, Ryo. Do you have any questions from the floor? Any other comments?
Maybe the last question is just curious about your next coming exhibition, solo or group. So where can we come across your artworks?
Okay.
Or more directly asking, you might hesitate to answer, but where can we purchase your artwork?
So it's a very good question for you, I hope. And so next exhibition is, I have just only one exhibition in next month in Hamamatsu in Shizuoka. I will have two artist group exhibition. I don't know how to say two duo exhibition. But after that, I will not have any exhibitions because today there are people saying that art bubble. So I hate this word, but art bubble means many people want artworks, and then many artists and many collectors, many curators, the way to sell, way to show appears. And I think it's danger. And I'm afraid that in the future, people saying that, I know Shinagawa, I saw him in 2020 in Art Bubble. I have to hate that. I have to avoid that. Then I decreased the number of show. But after some years, I will show a lot. And purchase. To purchase, please come to my exhibition.
Okay, thank you very, very much. It's a very impressive presentation and great Q&A sessions. Thank you very much. Please give you a big hand.